right, here we are. We are at Rising Stuns Digital Studio, easy for me to say, in Tampa, Florida, and this is Born a Musician. I'm Captain Hook, and with me today and forever is going to be John Seda, my dear friend. John, how's it going, buddy?
It's going good, Mr. Hook, Captain Hook.
Well, we've been working on this for a long time, and now it's finally coming together. This is our first show. And it's good to be here. John, let's talk about you just for a few minutes here.
Okay.
Hold the mic up to you.
Okay, if you insist.
Okay. And, John, you've been a musician for a long time, a guitar player.
Yeah. I've reached the great golden age of 55. Started playing at 12. My mother taught me my first chords on the guitar, and then I took it from there.
And you're from Puerto Rico.
Yes, I'm from Puerto Rico. I was born in New York. And I migrated to Puerto Rico when I was 12. My mom and dad lived in New York and Long Island. And at the age of 5, we went to L.A. And from L.A., I left there when I was 12.
What'd your father do?
My father did several things. He was in the shipping business. Uh-huh. And he at one point had a business selling airline tickets.
Was he a musician?
Traveling. No, he was not. No,
so your mom was a musician?
Yeah, yes, she was.
Okay.
She used to serenade him.
So how'd you go on now? You moved out to California.
I moved out to California, and that's kind of where music kind of clicked. You know, it was like the end of the 60s. We're talking about 68, 69, when everything was, popping and the music was really cool. And I was the kid on the block that didn't go out and play football with anybody. I was locked in the room listening to the radio. Remember those transistor radios with the little headphones?
Oh, sure. 9-volt battery, the whole bit.
Mono all the time, But and I had one of those things stuck in my ear like 24/7. So it started there. And Mom, she would show me some chords and stuff. And then I took it from there. And then when we moved to Puerto Rico, that was an interesting change because all of a sudden I had to speak Spanish. I knew I could understand it, but it was never.
Well, did they speak Spanish in the house?
Oh, yes, they did. They did, but it was not. It wasn't like they never forced me or anything like that. It was just
right.
We would listen to Spanish music, and we had Spanish parties, but. It was always like, they would speak in Spanish and say, like, sign languages, like, don't say certain things around here and stuff like that.
You were Americanized.
Yeah, I was more Americanized, yeah.
So then you ended up going back to Puerto Rico.
So I go to Puerto Rico, and then I knew I had to speak Spanish, right? And it was cool, actually, because it was a culture shock for me. But even though I grew up in a Spanish family household, I was not forced to learn it, and then I had to. And then when I did, I learned a lot about my roots and stuff like that, and that was cool. So when I grew up, I always had that rock and roll vein inside of me, and then I mixed it in with the Latin, and that became really interesting. And then around 13, going from 13 to 14, that's when I started in my first band.
Wow.
Yeah. So then from there, it never stopped, and I was kind of like, what we were talking earlier, I was more the business guy in the group, and so I was always getting the gigs and stuff like that. And around 17, I had this crazy notion. I said, let me join the Army so I can get out of my house and be free, Boy, what a wake-up call that was.
So you go from being a rocker to Uncle Sam's Army.
Oh, yeah. I was in the 504th Military Intelligence Group.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Because all of a sudden I was working in these underground bunkers and stuff like that, and seeing things that I wish I didn't know existed. So it was cool though. I mean, it was the funny part was that music didn't stop there, because I remember getting out of basic training and coming back from Puerto Rico with my guitar, my twin reverb, and I'm carrying it in a shopping cart. And the sergeants look at me and they goes, "Boy, you're in for some trouble," And they would put me through all kind of hell, because I was a player. But then after a while, they kind of got used to it, and I would hang out at the rec center, and I started joining bands. And before you know it, I was playing in the second AD band, and I played in the second AD band for about 2.5 years, and I would get out of duties because there was this cool general that.
Well, for folks out there that don't know, tell them what is second AD band.
Second Armored Division.
Okay.
The Grunts, America's finest,
Right.
So they had an orchestra, and it turned out that the guy his name was Ramon Burgos, and he was the orchestra leader for this salsa band called Tempo 70, right? In Spanish, Tempo 70, right? But it was Tempo 70, and it was actually pretty famous salsa band. And he wanted me to be in the group because he said, I need a secret weapon. I'm going to these gigs and I need somebody to do like the Carlos Santana thing, and that actually became a lot of fun. And when I remember doing the audition, this was really crazy, right? I've always been, for those people who don't know me, but some people have seen me play, they know that some people nickname me the epileptic, right? Because I get on stage, I'm all wiry and electric and jumping around, So I get up and I sit on my amp, right? And I'm rocking the amp back and forth, and it's a twin reverb, so it's got wheels, So all of a sudden I rock myself too hard. I'm doing the solo. Bam! This reverb shoots through the sky. Everybody's laughing, and my legs are on top of the amp, right? And the guy says, you got the job. So that was that experience.
Yeah, some stage presence going on there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so you mentioned that you played with a twin reverb. What kind of guitar were you using then?
Stratocaster. I've always been my first guitar was a Kimberly.
Whoa.
A green 4 pickup Kimberly with 4 switches on it. When I first saw it, I never forget this. I know guys that are in music, we all do this, right? I was a kid, and I would I would walk miles to go to this music store and just stand and look at this guitar. And I just mesmerized, and I looked, and it was green, and it was green and black, and it just had this cool color, and finally I convinced my mom to help me get it. And I never stopped playing that thing, and then after that, I graduated, and I got this beautiful white Stratocaster, like was it 76 Strat?
A real Strat.
Yes. There was no
not a copy.
There wasn't Mexicans or Korean or Japanese Strats back then. It was the real deal, And that's when I really, all of a sudden, I was good, but then I became a lot better because the tool helped a lot, and then and I never stopped practicing. That was the whole thing. I was practicing 8 hours a day. I was driving my mom and dad crazy because I had a big dual Showman amplifier, and so they built me this soundproof room, kind of like the one we're in now, and except it was not as nice as this. It was egg cartons on the wall and stuff like that, and we would actually, and this is true, we would wake up early at 10 o'clock in the morning, and everybody was off to work, so it didn't bother anybody, and we would practice 8 hours a day, and all we did was drink coffee and eat donuts. That was it. That was our food.
You should have been a cop.
I should have been, right? But that was my mom would always buy these back in the days. It was called Hostess, and wholesome donuts, right? And so everybody would probably, I swear to you, would probably play 2 hours without stopping. And then I'd brew the coffee, and we'd sit down, and everybody eat some donuts. Then, bam, boom, we'd do it again, And for those out there, it was a different time, and there was.
Now, what year was this about?
It was 72, 73.
And you're still in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, 73 to 76. And then I made this crazy decision to go to the Army, and then it was cool. Like I said, it was murder because I remember when they cut my hair off, and I never forget the 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's freezing cold, and they say, "Take off your shirt." Everybody takes off their shirt, and and the reason why they would do this is because they knew there was people from all over the United States that had never knew what a Spanish or this was, or or never met certain people, and that's how they got people to like each other, because they had to huddle and stay warm, because if they didn't, they were going to freeze.
Right.
And it was cool. I mean, that part of it, I dug that. And it was a different time too. It was not now it's a lot of change. The youth is a lot different towards certain things, but it was cool. I mean, I played a lot, and it was amazing. It didn't matter that I was in the Army. And I remember that my sergeants would get mad at me because there was this cool general, and he, since I was with the 2nd AD band, he had some power, and every time they had to do a show, basically he would get me out of the field.
Right.
Because I wasn't a grunt. I was in the military intelligence group, right? But we were doing, how you say that, communications for the grunts, right?
Right.
So we were right with them. and then all of a sudden, General, I can't remember his name for God's sakes, but anyway, says so and so's you got to go play in this thing, so you better get out of here before I don't really, and they would be mad at me, and then I'd come back.
So did you do 4 years in the military?
No, 3. It was 3 back
three?
then. It was 3 back then.
Yeah, if you signed up yourself, I think you did 3.
Yeah.
If you got drafted, you had to do 4.
Yeah, there was no draft when I went in. It was right at the end of the, right at the end of the Vietnam War.
I'm a little older than you, and I was right at the end of the draft.
Yeah, it was. And then tell you the truth, it's for those, it's like my son. He served 3 tours, and that's tough. It's got to be tough. I was lucky. Lucky that I went in and.
So you get out of the service, and then now, how did your music career progress from there?
Well, I've always been a very tenacious kind of. Very crazy about certain things, and I went to New Orleans to visit a buddy of mine. So I lived in the bayous, and I was in Dulac, Louisiana, and I met, and it was pretty scary there. I mean, you're talking about some really weird stuff would go on there. I mean, you can go in there and never come out. It's one of those type of things. But I remember playing a party one time, and they took my amplifier in a boat, and we were like carrying the boat. And I'm saying, what is this? There was not roads. You had to go from like for these swamps.
Right. Right.
And I went to this party, and all I remember was I started playing, and everybody thought it was cool. And there was a point in the party I didn't remember anything. I don't know if it was it. I mean, it was this, but when I walked in, it was like there was these, killing eyes. Like, oh, who is this guy? Where is this guy from? But then I started playing, and then all of a sudden, whoa, hey, you're all right. Here, try a little bit of this.
Well, heaven help you if you'd sucked.
I don't think I'd be right here talking to you right now.
You'd be gator bait.
I know, exactly.
That's right.
So, I had an interesting time, and then from there I realized that was not the place for me, And believe it or not, the reason why I went there is crazy because I got out of the Army and I said, I want to try to find me a job where I can make a lot of money. And I thought I'd get on these oil rigs. And once I realized how scary that was it for me. I said, nope, that's not what I'm going to do, So I left there and I actually went to South Carolina for a while, and I played a little bit. And actually, when I was going it was the weirdest things. I never was really fearful about certain things. I would go into clubs without knowing anybody and walk up to the band and say, hey, can I jam? And they would say, no, And I said, yeah, come on, man. Let's let me play a little bit, And I'd buy the guy a beer, and he'd go, all right, man, go up and play. And it was interesting because all of a sudden they loved the way I played, and then all of a sudden I ended up in a band.
Right. Once you got your foot in the door and they heard you,
yeah,
then,
Right, and then it was. So I went through a lot of experiences of doing things that most people wouldn't even consider trying to do. So because, most people stay in their neighborhoods and they make a band and they kind of stick together. I was very, I just did it, and I wanted to find out what it was. That's why I wanted to go to New Orleans, and I wanted to travel through the South. And I love blues and stuff like that, so I kind of lived it. And so then from there, I went back home, which was Puerto Rico at the time, and then we formed a great band, and we played for about 5 years.
And what was the name of that band?
It had 2 names. It started off as being Laser. It was this band called Laser, and then it went to Only the Wise. And then we were basically a Latin rock group, and so we did a lot of percussion experimentation, like a lot of African beats and stuff. And I remember doing a concert, and that's how I met Giovanni Hidalgo, because I used to play with Giovanni Hidalgo at one point. We were doing a concert, right? And he was doing the same music, but he had started it supposedly first than we did, but we were actually doing this for way back. But they became famous for doing this style of music called songo, right? But we did it songo with a rock edge, and it was very rocky. And so we played in front of this crowd of 10,000 people, and it was crazy because everybody started screaming and became like this hysteria. We had 2 drummers and we had a percussionist, and one of my drummers, his name is Jesus Fromatan, he was Cuban, and then the other guy was Puerto Rican, and Lolo, and Lolo would play straight 4/4, and then he would play 6/8, and we would do these rhythms that the Cuban guy, Jesus, would tell us, hey, if we do these beats, it does something magical to the people, And we were dabbing into some really crazy stuff. and it would actually make people freak out.
Is there any recordings of that?
No.
That's too bad.
I have something somewhere where we did record something, but it's not a cassette deck.
Right.
But you can hear the people screaming in the background, and it was crazy, right? And you could hear what we were doing. It's just not something that, it's not studio recording and stuff like that. But anyway, that night we played, and women started taking their clothes off and stuff like that, which for Puerto Rico at the time was kind of like unheard of. And I remember the next day my mom calls me, and she goes, "Hey, mijo, hey, they're calling you from the radio station. They want to know the guy who made the girls take off their clothes and stuff, And I go, "Come on, Mom, you got to be kidding me, right?" She says, No. Call the guy right now, right? Because she heard it when she was driving to work. And then, so me and Jesus, we went to the station, and the radio guy was like, he was actually this really popular guy, and he says to me, "We need to find a clothing endorsement for these guys, because they seem to get, they make people, take off their clothes and stuff, And we were very, it wasn't an independent market back then, and nobody, honestly, at that time, we were doing something that was kind of unheard of in the island, and because mostly everything was like salsa and, merengue, and rock was very much liked, but it wasn't very supportive, But the great thing about Puerto Rico was, and this is where I learned about making money in music, is that and this happens mostly in all the islands back in that period. The island guys would make really good money in music because they like to party, and music is like food,
right?
And so it's like gotta have that music, you gotta have that beer, and you gotta have that good food, So it's a way of life. So you never hardly ran into situations where people didn't want to pay you, or they were trying to, con you into the word of, what they call that, exposure.
Right.
You need some exposure, and it wasn't like that. It was, they would tell you to do auditions. I mean, that was normal.
Unlike the ladies that were getting plenty of exposure.
Oh, right? Yeah. So anyway, and we, every time we did an audition, we got the job, and it was really interesting. And I think that now, and that's when I look back at that, and I look back at what music is doing now, I realize that this is why I'm doing Born a Musician.
Right. Well, that's it. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about Born a Musician and Rising Sun Studios here. We got a couple seconds here before we go to our first break. But let me reset this. You're talking with and listening to Captain Hook and John Seda, and we're in the Rising Sun Digital Studios, and this is Born a Musician.
See you later, guys.
We'll be back in just a few. And go ahead and fire it off there, John.
New way to deliver and obtain news and information all over the world, along with all the major mainstream news, local, national, and international news, and with new alternative news you can't get anywhere else. YourNews.com allows the people in the community to publish your own information absolutely free. Along with free articles and event publicity, Your News also offers free classified, free obituary, free business directory listings, free artist promotion, and free press release postings. YourNews.com is the place where you can write and read all about it. It's fun, it's informative, it's absolutely free. To see YourNews.com, go to WDBFradio.com and click on Your News, and you'll see what we're talking about.
Tune in to JJ and Sam in the Morning Show. You might hear things like this.
Week is winding down and their weekend is...
Winding down, it's my busiest day.
Well...
Friday is my busiest day.
We've committed to spending this much money, and you have to, you idiot.
My volume, I got it down because
he's mumbling. God only knows what he's saying. He sometimes he scares me.
Does he?
Okay.
Yeah, because I never know what he's going to say.
You think maybe he...
Yeah, he's like a Jack in the Box.
You think he did too much marijuana when he was a kid?
When I was a kid.
He still is a kid.
It's like this Yorkie I have over here. It's just, pumping in thin air. I mean...
JJ and Sam in the morning, 8 a.m. till 10, weekdays.
I done stumbled across a really good radio show with some music that I don't normally listen to. I listen to a lot of country music, but now I'm listening to reggae on Reggae Recipe with the Eggman and H-Love. And turn it up loud for me, will you? And what's the name of this here radio station? WDBF Radio? Go get me a goat and a beer, would you, baby?
If I had a nickel.
If I had a nickel for every rain delay.
For every time my mom said I should have been an architect.
A doctor.
A lawyer.
For every itch I couldn't reach.
For every time I used fluid dynamics to reduce my drag coefficient.
For every time.
For every time somebody joked with me about having gas.
For every time I couldn't find my sunglasses.
For every time I pretended a grocery cart was a race car.
For every time.
For 4 tires in Sunoco.
Man, if I had a nickel.
If you had a Sunoco Rewards credit card, you'd get a nickel for every gallon you pump. Go Sunoco.
Nationwide is on your side. I've been saying that for years, but why should you believe it? Well, the Earnhardt family's been trusting Nationwide Insurance for more than 30 years.
They've protected the Jarrett family for 40 years. And Nationwide Insurance puts members first because they don't have shareholders.
In fact, they've been protecting the NASCAR family of drivers, teams, and fans for more than 60 years.
Just goes to show you, this is a family business. To join the nation, call 877-NATIONWIDE. Nationwide is on your side.
WDBFradio.com. WDBFradio.com. WDBFradio.com.
I swear we keep breaking something every time we come in.
That's why they call us the Angry Rockers.
That's right. That's why I call you the Angry Rocker.
I was trying to push that off on you.
But this is Born a Musician. I'm Captain Hook, and John Seda is here with me.
Yes, I am.
And we're firing off our first show here.
This is great.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Born a Musician.
Born a Musician, basically what I was talking about before we, went into commercial break was inspired by a lot of my past experiences, and especially here in Tampa, Florida, where I came here to live here when music kind of started going downwards, and I was here in 92, and it was still cool. But when 95 came in and the internet was, pretty prevalent, well, it started. It wasn't prevalent, but it started. And I remember meeting with Randy Smith that produced Tom Petty, and he worked with George, Harrison, Ray Orbison, and he produced a lot of the, some of the Rolling Stones stuff. I was at his house, and I never forget that we were talking about Tom Petty because Tom, Napster had just started, so he was calling, Randy, and he says, this Napster thing, it's going to be great. Forget the record labels, right, and all that stuff, when you can play free music,
Right.
So basically, and I remember how everybody thought it was or was going to be. And they felt that, wow, if you give 1 million records for free, it'll just be great. We'll become famous and everybody's going to have work. And then as time progressed, everybody found out that was not the reality. That was definitely not the reality of it all. And it's actually now in 2014 where you see that it's taking a very positive upward climb. And because I guess people got tired of it, and it's very sad because there's like this 15-year lapse, where music was just, struggling and artists didn't make any money and people were saying, what do I do?
Right. There was a definite period of time where there was a big fight going on in the music industry of how are we going to regulate, how are we going to get the money out of this shared internet music situation and stuff. And with the invention of iTunes, I think that started it because then they started paying the artist. They started making the deal for the catalogs with the different record labels and being able to share that their music and then eventually sell their music at $1 a piece or whatever it was, about 99 cents a song. I think it's gone up now. I think it's like $1.25 now.
You can actually you select your price. I mean, there is different, so there are records that do sell for more, but that's because the artist chooses to do that.
Well, right. The artist can, put their own price on it, but now at least they're getting compensated. Well, before when there was Napster and what was the other one? I forget there was another one. I remember because we used to use it, and one day I opened it up and an FBI logo was on it. It said, "We have shut down this website."
Well, that was like LimeWire too.
LimeWire, that's the one.
LimeWire,
that's the one.
Yeah,
right.
they definitely shut that down.
Oh yeah,
they were going crazy.
Yeah.
But they weren't just downloading free music. They were downloading anything like movies and programs and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all, it was like, it was open game for anything that was available.
Right. And there's still today, there's not really any internet laws that have been passed that guard that sort of stuff. But there is copyright laws that.
Well, actually, there is no copyright laws yet. This is
on the internet.
No, this is where the problem started, and this is where a lot of the youth got fooled. And when I say that, I'm not attacking you guys. I'm just telling you, you've been taken. And I think a lot of you know this already, so, and the reason why you got taken, and I found this out, to be quite honest with you, in 2010 when I went to France to the Cannes, Medium Festival, right? Music Festival. And what I found out when this guy told me, he says, sit down, I got to tell you something. This was what's going on. And that year, France passed their own copyright law, for the internet. So if anybody took anything, they would get fined. Right. But what happened was, in 2011, they tried to do it. It's called the Stop Online Piracy Act, and a lot of people said, "Oh, that's not good. It's gonna hurt everybody." But it's foolish because these companies convinced everybody that file sharing and giving away your music, can make you famous, but nothing that you don't make money at makes you famous.
Right.
Yeah, you can be famous as a fool. You can be the fool on the hill. That you can be. But you can't be, you're not going to make any money from being the fool on the hill. I mean, that's an old Beatles song, right?
Right.
But, but the thing is that the amendments, okay, get this straight. The amendments for the copyright laws for the internet have never been passed because there's been lobbyists and people of special interest that have made it their business for it not to be passed so you don't get paid. But a lot of stink, started in 2011. The Senate passed the Senate passed the law, and then when Congress was going to do it, Google went crazy, and a lot of these companies, because they realized, if the law gets passed, everybody has to get paid, the fair statutory rate, right? And that meant that they were going to have to pay back pay and all kinds of stuff, and it would have put a lot of people out of business.
Plus, then I remember in that bill also that Congress had put a lot of extra fees in there,
right?
And that's what really killed it,
right? Exactly. There was some things that were they were unfair. I think that because the laws were never passed, I think the fair thing is just to start from scratch. You know what I mean? Because what are you going to do? How can you really regulate who played
right.
what? It's almost impossible.
All right, well, we'll come full circle, and we'll get back to now, Born a Musician.
Well, then, so I decided to make this company where because I believe in re-education of music. And this is what we're talking about, musicians' rights and basically. So I have 150 digital stores right now worldwide, and it will be soon 720.
Now, explain the stores, because I'm not sure I even understand.
Well, they're digital stores. They're not physical stores because, that doesn't even exist anymore pretty much. I mean, that's a thing of the past.
But when you say digital stores, where you mean on the internet or?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm talking about iTunes, Amazon, Rhapsody, Deezer, Spotify, which is streaming, and there's tons of them, right? And I can go on and on listing YouTube. We're YouTube distributors. What does that mean? YouTube pays royalties on your music when a commercial is put on.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways of developing and making money in music, and there's no reason to do this giving away your music for free anymore.
Right. Right.
So basically, our mission is to enhance the musical economy.
And it's also easier than getting signed by a big label and waiting for your day to come.
Which will never happen.
Right.
I mean, because even, I have friends that were signed to labels like, I don't want to say, let me not say the name, right, but signed to some big labels, right, and for 8 years never saw a penny.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a great story about that. Just recently, Meatloaf was on with Imus.
Right.
And he was talking about the Bat Out of Hell album. He went for 14 years without seeing a penny.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that record sold like over and over again. It still sells.
And still selling like crazy now, and involved with a lawsuit now to get his money. And there's a lot of artists like this because the big record labels, they figure it is cheaper in the long run for you to take them to court to get the money and for them to come up with a settlement than it is to pay you what they owe you.
Exactly. And the problem really is, we can blame the majors. But a friend of mine said this to me a long time ago, and it's really true if you think about it. And he's a famous musician. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to,
Right.
get him in trouble or nothing like that. But he says you're as good as the contract you signed.
Right.
So in other words, if you sign something and you agreed to something, then you know what? It's your fault. You got the ability to go to a lawyer, and I've talked to lawyers before about this, and it's interesting. One lawyer told me that there is no way that you will make a penny the way they write those contracts up. So why does everybody get excited about being signed? And I get, which is interesting right now because even the majors are not signing anymore because there's no business in it anymore, right? And artists give away their stuff, and which is crazy because that's the way you make money. I don't see any football players go and say, "Hey guys, you know what? I'm up. I just broke 2 legs, but I don't want to get paid. I'm just going to go ahead and let somebody kill me." And then they do that every single day. No, that doesn't work.
Right.
The NBA, the MLB, and what we're doing is we believe that the problem is the education. We were taught. I remember as a kid, no one taught us nothing. And when somebody knew, he didn't share it because that's what they used to say. Don't tell anybody your secrets because then somebody's going to get the jump on you. And I remember meeting famous artists that say, "I can't help you, boy. You're not going to teach you so you can take my place." I mean, and just anybody that's listening knows that knows about that, that's played with bigger people, know that that's the truth. So why does everybody feel like someone's going to help me? No, you need to help yourself.
Right.
You need to get up in the morning and figure out a way to do it. And that's what I'm doing with, Born a Musician. We make our own commercials now. And this is the cool part. We're doing commercials that right now we're on this parody thing. And I'll be honest with you, it's a breath of fresh air because I get to laugh and goof around them.
Right.
And we're going to be doing these music parodies that are going to be hilarious. That's not even around. That's coming soon, right? But the great part is that I can be creative,
right,
and get paid,
and we should
take care of.
And we should say that spot that you hear on WDBF radio, that's your production.
Oh, yes, yeah.
That's station ID.
I played all the instruments.
You played all the instruments, but you didn't do the singing.
No, I didn't. No, because Cook said, "Don't you dare sing."
I said, "Get some beautiful girls in here and do the singing."
Well, that's what I usually do. I got some girls that come in and they sing their butts off. I mean, they're amazing, So it's like, and they're good people, and it's a lot of fun. But it was that song there's a history behind that song. But and it's called Born a Musician. So we're I'm just like everybody else, just like you guys. You work hard at writing something. Write something and think about how you can progress from it.
That's right. And Born a Musician is on Facebook. It is on. It has its own website.
Yes.
And if you need to get in touch with John, go to Born a Musician. If you are a rocker or a Latin,
jazz,
or whatever,
blues, anything.
If you just have it in your heart to do music and play music, and if you're a singer, or if you're a writer, or if you just have some great ideas, or you just want to hang out,
right,
go there,
yeah,
and be part of the crowd.
And I do something which a lot of people. This is interesting, and I have to show my love to musicians because a lot of them have shown concern about me, right? I call people up, right? And none of these companies do that. They don't speak to anybody. Nobody picks up the phone. There is no way. There is no phone to call, right? And I believe that you have to speak to people, one-on-one, because there's a lot of these questions, and a lot of them have to be explained, and it comes from experience, And I think that, one of the things that I run into is like when people say, my only concern is like, how do you make money? Well, I said, well, don't worry about me. I said, but, and this is what a lot of people don't know about this, all right, about this independent business. 95% of the market share is wide open. So you musicians don't even have a grip of what really is available to you, but no one's going to do it for you. And I guess it comes back to the old thing about managers.
I hate managers. I fired more managers, I can't tell you. In fact, I threw one through my front door one time.
Yeah, and and managers always, I only say there's only one great kind of manager.
You.
Yeah. Well, there's some guys out there,
Yeah, there are some good ones.
There's some good ones, right?
But not very many.
But look what I'm going to say. So that means that there's really, really few of them. The only good manager is a manager that says to you, hey, brother, I got 300 gigs for you this year. You better get ready, and you ain't coming home.
Now, the booking managers are a different story than like a personal manager.
Well, you don't need a personal manager.
Well, these guys that try to lock you into a personal service contract the rest of your life, you're going to give them 15%. They can go kiss my butt.
Well, that's because, that's where this is where laziness comes in.
Right.
Come on, you don't need nobody to brush your teeth.
No.
You know what I mean? It's just what this is all about.
But you might need some help to get your gigs, to go out and book your gigs. If the guy's making you money, and booking gigs, then he might be worth the 15%.
Well, I look at it this way. I did it differently. We used to book a club in California. It used to be called Pepper's Nightclub, and we used to do a Battle of the Bands on Monday night. This was years ago, and a lot of people know me from that because we did it for 2 years. And I would make, we would do about $1,500, $1,200, because it was the door.
Right.
And it was a beautiful club. It was, it was a big sign out and everything. Anyway, long story short, at the end of the night, I would take $200, pay my crew, and go to the bartenders and tip everybody, And everybody loved me, and everybody was happy.
And if you do the right thing, and you're a pro, that's the way to do things.
Right. What I'm saying is that, but if I gave 15%, then I was giving away $250. Plus, I would have to tip, and all this stuff. So I don't believe it. I just believe that you just need to know how to work more efficiently, and there's ways to do it, And of course, you can get a college student, and this is, and I say this in a positive way, not like using people, because I don't think it's cool that just to use somebody. But if they're in college and they need credits, they're studying sound or whatever, they can come to the gig and give them $50-$60. I mean, it's better than, that's not, that's. I don't believe in free internship, but when we do it at the studio, which is Rising Sun Music Recording Studios. That's
where we are now.
Well, Steve always says Rising Sun Digital, and I know it's confusing, but Rising Sun Digital is the company that owns Born a Musician, and Rising Sun Music is where we are recording, right?
Right.
But anyway, the bottom line is that there's different ways to do things, and you can compensate people, and you don't have to have somebody taking 15% of your record sales and 15% of this when you can just do that yourself.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. That's exactly right. And this is one thing that Born a Musician is trying to do, is educate the up-and-coming new musicians.
Right. I mean, I get calls daily. It's interesting. I'm doing a lot of projects right now, and I will pre-announce this. Coming next month, I'm going to be really proud to work with my buddy Carlos Sanchez. He's like my son. I love him. And he's 25 years old. He plays every instrument, and he's phenomenal. And we're going to have Elena Sahara come from Moscow, and we're doing a track together. And this lady has helped me out. And look, we're getting together. She's having a vacation, but she wants to come see me. We're going to record. And that's a blessing.
And I think we'll have her as a guest.
Oh, yeah, she's going to, of course, yeah.
And that's one thing we're going to be doing in the future, is having a lot of guests. And we're just starting this off with talking about John and a little bit about myself. Of course, everybody knows me from being on the WDBF radio. Let's take another break here real quick, man. This hour's going very fast.
Yes, it is.
Hit the intro this time. There you go. Fire that baby off.
I'm like, I'm learning my sound all over again.
That's right. Well, there you go. We'll be back.
If I had a nickel
for every rain delay.
For every time my mom said I should have been an architect.
A doctor.
A lawyer.
For every itch I couldn't reach.
For every time I used fluid dynamics to reduce my drag coefficient.
For every time.
For every time somebody joked with me about having gas.
For every time I couldn't find my
For
sunglasses.
every time I pretended a grocery cart was a race car.
For every time.
Getting for 4 tires in Sunoco.
Man, if I had a nickel.
If you had a Sunoco Rewards credit card, you'd get a nickel for every gallon you pump. Go Sunoco.
Nationwide is on your side. I've been saying that for years, but why should you believe it? Well, the Earnhardt family's been trusting Nationwide Insurance for more than 30 years.
They protected the Jarrett family for 40 years. And Nationwide Insurance puts members first because they don't have shareholders.
In fact, they've been protecting the NASCAR family of drivers, teams, and fans for more than 60 years.
Just goes to show you, this is a family business. To join the nation, call 877-NATIONWIDE. Nationwide is on your side.
Hi, this is Morgan Freeman. Has anyone ever said, you're the picture of health? You look healthy, you feel fine, but that may not be the full picture. Colorectal cancer is the second leading cancer killer of men and women over 50. Since it doesn't always cause symptoms, you may not know you have it. The only way to know is by getting screened. Screening can find precancerous polyps so they can be removed before they turn into cancer. This is one cancer you can prevent. Plus, screening can find colorectal cancer at an early stage when the chance for a full recovery is very high. Talk with your doctor and get tested for colorectal cancer. Medicare and many insurance plans help pay for screening. Get screened. Make sure you are the picture of health.
A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
The future of daily news has arrived. Praised by communities across the USA, WDBFradio.com and YourNews.com are expanding this exciting new way to deliver and obtain news and information all over the world, along with all the major mainstream news, local, national, and international news, and with new alternative news you can't get anywhere else. YourNews.com allows the people in the community to publish your own information absolutely free. Along with free articles and event publicity, Your News also offers free classified, free obituary, free business directory listings, free artist promotion, and free press release postings. YourNews.com is the place where you can write and read all about it. It's fun, it's informative, it's absolutely free. To see YourNews.com, go to WDBFradio.com and click on Your News, and you'll see what we're talking about. Hello there, talk radio fans. This is Dick Farrell, noon to 2 Eastern, every Monday through Friday here on WDBFradio.com. We're trying to improve our product. We'd like to know how to make you smile more. What can we do to improve the quality of the programs you're listening to? What suggestions do you have? When are you listening to us? And where are you listening to us? Feel free to drop us an email at WDBFradio@gmail.com. That's WDBFradio@gmail.com. All responses are confidential. We're looking out for you. How to make our radio station better for you at WDBFradio.com.
WDBFradio.com. Start talking.
WDBFradio.com. WDBFradio.com.
Man, we got to quit doing that. I'll tell you. I keep thinking about that big picture window going into the booth there.
You know what that was? That was me throwing the plate at the manager.
Those damn managers. All right. Well, let's talk about the studio. Let me tell you what I thought the first time I came in here. Now, I got out of music. I did my last performance, New Year's night, 1997. I walked out of music and never went back. That was it. I was done. I played for 25 years before that, and I wanted to go back to aviation, and I was sick of the scumbags. You know,
I don't blame you. It's not easy to continue, to be honest with you.
And I was tired of making everybody rehearse and getting ready, and it was a big outdoor private gig, and I said, "This is it. This is my last hurrah." In fact, I even left some of my equipment there. I never played again since.
Wow.
Now, about 4 or 5 years ago, I bought myself an Ibanez, another Ibanez bass, a real nice 24 fret bass, and I played for a little while. And then I was living in the country at a horse farm, and I couldn't find anybody to play with. So
there's nobody out there.
There's nobody out there, right? There was nobody out there but me and the chickens and the horses, you know, and the dogs. And so I got out of it again. And so now you got me wanting back in it. But when I first walked in here, my last deal with being in a studio was in '93 at Josh Nolan's studio, and everything was reel to reel.
Right.
I mean, no
yeah.
digital. So when I come in here and you got the big screen up here, let me just paint a picture for you. When you walk in the door, the place is beautifully paneled. It's nice and it's brown with nice carpeting, and it's just gorgeous in here. It's got all the acoustic tiles set up, the acoustic special effects set over the windows. And you look at a big screen TV monitor, and then you have it's all run by Mac, Apple.
Yeah, it's a Mac
Apple
system.
based,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, and it controls everything that comes through the board, and you work everything through that. And I'm telling you, I am totally lost. There's stuff in here I don't even know what it was, and I thought I was pretty savvy when it came to the studio. And there's stuff, and I'm like, what is this? I remember the first time I was in here, I'm just looking around, and I was a pilot for 35 years. Right. So knobs and switches don't scare me, but this place kind of scares me, you know.
It was worse before. I mean, no, it was. I mean, when we first built this place, I had on this wall over here like 4 racks of gear, because everything was more analog. Because everything is changing now. Everything's pretty much it's working. I mean, there's gear out there right now. These plugins. I mean, I just bought one. I'll give a mention out to Slate Digital for doing such a great job on this reel-to-reel plugin.
Right.
Oh my God, it sounds like tape. It's the real deal. Even comes with the hiss and everything.
Really?
It does. So
what is it? When you look up on the screen
and it's a reel,
and it's got a reel-to-reel going around.
And what they did was they took they based it off a 16-channel 2-inch machine. Now you know the 2 inches 24.
Right.
That's a big fat sound. The 16s were even fatter, right? You know. So the last couple of months I've been mastering with that, and I'm in love.
Really?
Yeah.
You have to show me that sometime.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Well, here's what I think. I think, some of the young guys coming up have never even played with any kind of analog stuff, except for maybe the pedals or stuff like that.
You'd be surprised. A lot of the young, kids, I work with a lot of kids that were 16, 17, and a lot of them, what surprises me when you compare it to our times, I never listened to my mother's music.
Right.
I just didn't.
Right. Until you get to be our age now.
Yeah, but they listen to our music.
Right.
And they'll say that it was better produced. They just love it. And it just shocks me sometimes. I mean, I guess that's the cool thing about the internet, because then you can listen to anything you want to, right? I mean, we didn't have that capability. Either you kind of listen to this or that. It wasn't like you could just find out about this Japanese musician or this, guy from Russia that does this amazing thing. You can listen to anything now.
Right.
But with all that being said, it shows, a lot of them, and I don't say this to make fun of anybody or say that our music is better, none of that stuff, because I actually think there's something wrong with that. I think that they need to focus more on better songwriting now. And we had a conversation with this at this club the other day, and everybody came up to talk about it. And it's like, you don't have songwriters anymore. You have artists that are songwriters, singer, and do everything. And, there was a time there was people that were really good at songwriting. That's what they did best. And then there was a guy that really could perform. And now they kind of mix them together, and I think that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
And it's...
Well, right, with the age of the computers now and digital, one guy can do it all, like kind of what you do sometimes in here when you're making commercials or just doing spots.
And what's funny about that? That I've always been opposed to doing that. People won't believe that.
Well, now you're doing it.
Well, I'm doing it, but it's kind of funny because the last 10 years I've been really focused on working and helping other artists, and I love to collaborate, love to do different things. But now I realize that now, I don't want to say my final years, but I'm getting older now, guys.
Well, we're both at the end of more so than at the beginning.
I hope we're at the end of the rainbow. We'll find some cash by then, But anyway,
I know it.
No, but I'm just saying. I'm joking. But the thing is now I've got this other something ignited, and so I'm really, I'm doing a lot of creative stuff. And that's important too, guys. I respect when musicians, really truly feel passionate about the arts. But I'll go back to what we were talking about, Born a Musician. You got to make money too doing this stuff too. And there was somebody who disappointed me the other day, and I hope you know who I'm talking about, because I call him one of my students. I don't want to make any money. I don't really care. I want to live off of music, but I don't want to make any money. I go, well, that doesn't make any sense.
That's when you just bitch slap them.
I know. Wake up. But no, the funny part was it says, I said, it. See how I did that? I was smart. I didn't say who it was. It said,
Well, nowadays it could be an it.
I know that. I know that. So the thing is that how can you say that I want to live off of music, but I don't want to make money doing it? Well, that doesn't make any freaking sense. Right? Right? I mean, so I'm really, for those who get to know me, I'm really, and then a lot of people say, well, how do you do it? I said, well, I never said it was easy. This is not. It's very.
And you work very hard at it. You're thinking about all types of ways of making money and in doing this, because for so long it's you've been pretty successful because you're an on-stage musician for quite a few years, but at the same time when you're running a studio, and we were talking about this before airtime, that everybody wants a little something for free. They think they could come in and be in a studio and then they think it's a gimme, but it takes time and your time. And I have seen you literally, especially just did a 30-second spot for us, take 4 or 5 hours just to get it right.
Right. I mean, because first of all, we put passion into it. You know, we're not just trying to, wham, bam, thank you, man.
Right.
Which a lot of times people don't realize that if,
like some of my productions, I do my commercial. Just
I didn't say that. But I mean, the passion part is what takes a little time. You got to sit down and talk to your people. You look at, you're working with 2 other singers or another musician. You got to talk. You got to bond. That's really important. And it's like when people sell beats.
Beats?
They're selling beats. Do you sell beats? And I go,
sell beats?
Yeah, you make a beat that takes you 50 hours to, it'll take that long. But anyway, it takes you 12 hours to do it, and they want to pay $25 for it, right? And then they sell that same beat to 1,000 people.
I'm thinking pickled beats when you're saying selling beats.
It's a, like that kind of a beat, right?
And you're going to sell that, huh?
I don't do that.
No.
I when people call me to do like R&B or hip hop or something like that, I charge them. Right. I'm not going to spend,
For example, what does it cost to come to Rising Sun Studios?
It's actually pretty affordable. It's $60 an hour just for, it's like standing hourly rate. We do a 12-hour block for $500. We do a 6-hour block for $300. And guess what, everybody? In the first few weeks of the station, I'm breaking a mean sale for all the bands.
There you go.
Here it comes. Here it comes. 28 hours for $1,000.
28 hours for $1,000?
Yeah.
That's a deal.
That's a super deal. So I'm showing some love. Show some love back.
Tell them how they can get in touch with you because we're running out of time here.
813-340-6126. 813-340-6126. Or you can write me by email at john@risingsunstudios.com. Or you can text me at 813-340-6126.
Don't text him. Don't text him. I'll get nothing done around here. People texting him all the time. Don't text him. Call him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I always, and it's with that being said, I always prefer a phone call because there's nothing better than the one-on-one.
The one-on-one, right? Yeah. And you get to know him. And John's a great guy, easy guy to work with. And if you want a true professional, come on down to Rising Sun.
Well, thank you.
And in next hour, we're going to have a special surprise. I'm not going to say who it is, but we're going to have a special guest.
Oh yeah.
And we'll be back in the next hour here. We got a few more seconds here.
Yeah. Well,
we got a few more seconds here.
Is our guest an it?
No. No, definitely not an it.
I know that. But we were joking about that before.
All right. We'll see you guys on the other side. You're listening to Born a Musician with Captain Hook and John Seda. Stay with us.
See ya.